Coffee with the Editor is proudly brought to you by IRZ and the Naledi Group of companies, which includes Naledi Ring Rollers, Composite Brake Components, and Naledi Foundries. Firstly, thank you for joining me for Coffee with the Editor. I do hope you have a cup of coffee with you.
I'm waiting for my coffee to get here.
So you've just released your business plan. You have a new board. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, the business plan, if we can start with that one.
Yes.
We have a business plan for about 5 years, which was approved by Cabinet late last year. Mm-hmm. And the company has been struggling to get this business plan approved now, several business plans actually over the past few years. Mm. And last year when I came in, I got a draft at the end, and then I decided not to do a new one, but just to validate it. So the first few months I've spent on that with the Exco team to validate the business plan, and we went through the government processes, various cabinet committees, and we got it approved in December last year. So it's a major milestone in the company because it's something that has been pushed for quite a few years. Yeah. Now, in essence, or in very short, is the TransNamib, I believe, is about 25 years behind.
Okay.
In terms of where it should be as a company. So what we are trying to do with the business plan is that within the next 5 years, we need to double up revenue. We need to double up volumes. We need to make sure that we improve efficiencies at various levels, introduce new systems which will add to more efficiency. And then, of course, we have to create accountable leadership. Of course, it starts with me and the board, and then going to all the staff within the company. So that's also a lot of things that I've been focusing on the past over a year that I'm now here, to sort of change the culture of the company. A lot of damage has been happening in the past, but what I have told my staff is that let's focus on the future. Whatever has happened in the past, we can't change. The only thing that we can change is the future. So it's quite a big plan in terms of double up the volumes of freight. We're doing about 1.5 million tons per annum. So it should be about 3 million tons over the next 5 years. The interesting thing is that we are at the end of our first year of the business plan already. So since it was approved late, I said, no, we can't now move it on another year. We just need to push. Now, year to date, we've already recorded, for this financial year, we've recorded an increase in volumes, which is the best in the last 10 years. Oh, so there is already a pickup. So there is a slight improvement, but it's still much less than what we really need to do. We need to grow on average with 20% per annum for the next 5 years. So it's a significant growth that is required in terms of our business plan.
How are you going to achieve that?
You see, the biggest single challenge that we have is the old locomotives. So in the business plan, it makes provision for us to refurbish some of our fleet, and then also within the 5 years, also buy some new locomotives.
Okay.
But what we are doing now is the low-hanging fruits, because that is through public procurement processes, so it will also take time. And we need to raise about 2.5 billion rand over the 5 years. So for us, we're focusing on the low-hanging fruits now in terms of improving efficiency. The biggest advantage we have is that we have customers that's standing in a queue. Yeah. So they want to use TransNamib, but we just need to get our house in order to be able to serve them better. We also have certain strategies in place in terms of engaging better with the customers. So I've also spent a lot of my time, due to my background, a lot of my time in terms of the within the customer sphere to support that from a marketing and a commercial perspective. And fortunately or unfortunately, I have to use my brand to strengthen the brand of the company. It's a different sort of way to do things, but in terms of engaging customers and creating that confidence back into the company, because there has been a lot of corporate governance issues. So that's really the approach that we're trying to follow.
Okay, so the next 5 years in that business plan, what does it look like in terms of line rehabilitation, new lines, signaling, level crossings, like what does that infrastructure look like now and in the next 5 years?
The rail infrastructure in Namibia belongs to the government. So that is the government's responsibility. So the business plan is a little bit silent on it. But what has however happened is that the government do have a long-term plan in place in terms of upgrading the rail infrastructure. So there's already certain sections like from Kransberg, which is the midway point between the line from the coast to Walvis Bay up to the north. That one is already almost completed, that rehabilitation. And then the government has just gotten a loan from the African Development Bank to do the Kransberg-Walvis Bay line. So those tenders, I think they will approve it within the next few weeks, so that they can start with that work hopefully by mid-year to improve that line. And then, of course, there are other opportunities in terms of upgrades that the government is working on. So from my TransNamib perspective, we focus more on the more critical maintenance that needs to be done to ensure that our trains run all the way. So there is a plan, but for me, the way that we are looking at the TransNamib business for now is, let us see how we can improve our business better with better locomotives. Even if the locomotives run at a slower speed, the reliability factor is what we need to bring into our business.
What does your fleet look like at the moment? Because I know that there's a big challenge around your rolling stock. So, like, how many locomotives, how many wagons? What is your current status?
Yeah, so from a locomotive perspective, we have only 6 new locomotives that were bought about 4 years ago. GE locomotives, and then we have a total fleet of about, on average day, we have about 33 locomotives that are on the lines in terms of moving around. But with the amount of volume that we're moving, we actually require 55 reliable locomotives. So we're really running tight at the moment, but we are also busy with a program to accelerate our maintenance and to see how we can do better with what we have. Because we are in a difficult space, so we're seeing what we can do with our existing resources to optimize that. I mean, we also have a lot of other soft challenges in terms of human resources. From a company perspective, we haven't done external recruitment for 7 years. There was no training in the company for 7 years. So there was no proper communication on a continuous basis within the company for 7 years. So how do you now manage these things and improve on it? So we have started some campaigns in terms of improving that. From a signaling perspective, that is one of the technologies that we need to put in place. What I have ever taken is that we will appoint soon an executive that will focus on technology and innovation, because I believe that the bridge for us in terms of the 25 years that we've lost, we can only make up through improvement in technology. So that's one of the things that we want to focus on, digitization. I wish we had the opportunity to go to that session last week. I was really very interested in the one in Cape Town. But yeah, we had so many priorities, and I hope there will be another opportunity like that. So to advance, because digitization is really the way for us to go and fast track our business. And then, of course, we are busy developing a safety campaign in terms of rail crossings and also other means to improve safety. But also our business plan has got an element of a road to rail strategy to support government and overall the maintenance of roads on a national basis.
So the maintenance of your locomotives, do you do that? Do you have your own facilities for that, or do you send that out?
We have our own facilities, but of course, some of the bigger jobs, we have some Namibian companies and some South African companies that provide that service to us all over the past few years. But in terms of the workshops and so on, yes, we do have that. We have people. We don't have enough technical people, so we're also working on those programs, long-term programs, to support that, and we're looking for partners to assist us in also growing that capacity.
How big is your network in total?
Okay, it's about 2,400 kilometers, inclusive of Lüderitz. We have opened Lüderitz now after 15 years. The line is open.
Oh wow!
We've had a test train. We had our first scheduled train in December last year. So what we're doing now is we're just developing the business so that we can start having a scheduled train to Lüderitz. Of course, that one is also very ideal in terms of the tourism sector for the train. I'm sure the Rover-Royce will soon take that route. And then, of course, our own desert that we have that will become operational within the next few months, that we will then also run on that route, which will be a very nice and scenic route.
Well, I'm looking forward to going on that one because I haven't been on that one yet. Aside from the challenges that you currently have with the rolling stock, has leasing been considered as a stopgap to kind of help you along the way, or is there a model to kind of include your customers as part of that leasing pool to manage the cost of that kind of rolling stock in the interim whilst you're waiting, because that would help improve some of your capacity?
Yeah. No, when I started here, we had about, I think at that time, about 7 to 12 locos on lease from Transit Engineering. But I think from a company perspective, it wasn't managed very well. So we have ended all of those back. It was also had a serious impact on our financials. So we're actually doing more volumes now with less locos after we gave those back. So we have now focused first. I want us to focus on improving efficiency. Of course, in terms of the short to medium term, we are looking at various options in terms of creating the capacity with respect to more locals. So they are those alternatives that we are looking at. We are also looking at other alternatives. So the customer option is definitely an option. It's just how do we approach it in terms of aligning ourselves to corporate governance and also making sure that there's value for ourselves, there's financial value for us, customer, but there is also value for the customer within it. So there are different models that we are looking at now going forward, which is part of this process of sourcing about 2.5 billion rand within the next 5 years to fund our business plan.
I know I've asked this question before over time, but how do suppliers actually engage with TransNamib, be they local from like South Africa or in Africa or internationally? What is the process for their engagement?
Okay, so we have a new procurement policy since 2017, April 2017, in Namibia for all the state-owned entities. So it's a bit of a change in terms of our setup. So we have historically a lot of South African suppliers. So many of the suppliers, depending on the type of work to be done or depending on the types of supplies, they come and visit us. So sometimes I've also seen a lot of suppliers within the last year plus that I've been here. They come and engage. If they really have to come to Windhoek, I mean, it's 2 hours away from Joburg, so it's not really an issue. And then we are also with the program to see how we can source additional or alternative supplies going forward. So the sort of exhibitions and shows focusing on transportation and railways, that's really what I want to expose my team a little bit more from a regional perspective, but also international perspective. So last year we went on a little bit of a roadshow, not much, but here there to explore that also, so that we get more options in place to support the business, because it's also about, it's not just about alternative supplies, it's also about the improvement in terms of technology, who can do it better at a better price, but even if there is alternative or new methods to fast track whatever we do on the side.
Sure. And then if I'm allowed to ask, current news headlines talk about the Malaysian company and all of that going a little pear-shaped. Is there an official party line on that?
Yeah, you see, for us going forward in the short term, what is critical is the locomotive capacity. So we need to find a way to sort of upgrade our old locomotives in the short term. So is it going to be refurbishment? Is it going to be remanufacturing? Or is there another technology which would help us to advance it in the shortest period of time? We don't have time. So whatever is the best option going forward. So at least what we are looking at is that to use, if it is remanufacturing, of course, it has to be done through the normal public procurement processes. It is a matter of using our existing framework in terms of our locals. So it's just to improve the technology and the inside interior part. So those are things that we are looking at. We can't throw away yet the existing locomotives that we do have. We still need to see what we can do. And in order for us to buy new locomotives now, there's two things: the time and also the funding per se makes it a little bit more difficult. So we have to use the existing rolling stock and see how we can optimize on it for the short term.
Do you think Parliament, because it was in Parliament that it all got stuck, so do you think Parliament is going to approve it, or do you think the process is now going to start all over again?
Yeah, no, there were discussions in cabinet about it, but I mean, I'm not. Our system works a little bit different than yours. So what? I mean, those are discussions at that level. From a company perspective, we cannot. We can listen and hear and so on, but at the end of the day, I've signed a performance agreement, so we need to perform at company level to see what we can do. So at this stage, we're working on short-term options to see what is the best available option for us. And then on the other side, we're working on procurement processes for that. So that's really the approach. That we can't wait for anybody or anything at this stage. We have to, if this doesn't work out, we know that we have to find another alternative to make things work, because excuses is excuses. So for me, I can't use excuses. Whether it's better or not, that's another discussion. But for me, is we have to continuously move forward.
Any other exciting plans or activities coming up over the next 6 months?
Yeah, I think maybe the first one is, we bought in place about a month ago, new board. So I think the new board is very strategically aligned to our business plan. I believe that we will work together as a team to make things work. So that is very good in terms of having that support for the executive team to push the implementation of the strategy. Of course, we have various projects that we are working on at
Okay.
TransNamib.
Give me the details of those projects.
I think, but yes. So the various projects, let me divide it in two. So the first one is really in terms of a business perspective, how to grow our business. So those projects are based on how we work better with our customers. So one of the things that we are looking at is to develop a station strategy. Now, what I have realized, and also looking at what has transpired over the past few years, and also there hasn't been enough capacity built in terms of the company. We are very behind, minus 25 years. So this company can actually add a lot of value to the smaller towns. So there's a lot of commodities that's moving by road at this stage, from the smaller towns, or maybe just outside the smaller towns, mining commodities specifically, and then to the port. So we want to explore that, because for me, we have the infrastructure there. So we just need to find a way as to how we then optimize that infrastructure and then run trains on that. So that's one area that we're looking at. Of course, we're also looking at how we can, in terms of our logistics hub concept, how we can advance that growth through the railways, through the certain points like Grootfontein, which is a connection to Zambia and Congo. And then, of course, Oshikango, which links into Angola. And then, of course, the linkage between Gobabis up to Botswana. So we are currently engaging various strategic partners in the region at the railways level, but also at the logistics service provider level or logistics company level to advance this growth for us. So those are some of the things. So we have a lot of engagements and initiatives that we're working on to streamline that business growth. My personal belief is that the logistics sector, in terms of the main logistics companies, must equalize the support that they have given to road, also to give an option to rail. So when they quote for road, they must also quote for rail. So those are the things that we are engaging at this stage in terms of the logistics sector. So that's from a business perspective, what we are looking at going forward. Then from a sort of a future looking project perspective, of course, the railway connection to Zambia is one where there will be updated feasibility study done by the government. They also got that part of the African Development Bank funding. So that will start within the next few months. There's some interest on that. So as TransNamib, we will also become now more integral within those projects, because we've been very silent on those projects because of other challenges. And then, of course, the railway connection to Botswana, those are ongoing discussions. So we are trying to renew and to see how we can work with our government and Botswana government to realize that project. This is why we have signed the MOU with Botswana Railways last year, so that at least let us start at an operational level where we grow the business in the interim. So by the time that the line is completed, already a certain level of business in terms of changing the trade route. Yeah. Then we are busy discussing with Transnet TFR to see how we can reinvigorate the line to the south in terms of the trade between Namibia and South Africa, because we still import more than 60% of our goods from South Africa. So that's one of the options or projects that we're working on. And then, of course, the Lutherits project is we're looking at seeing what market share we can get from the Northern Cape in terms of the manganese exports via the port of Lutherits to overseas markets. Those are, in principle, some of the projects that we're looking at. It's busy. Yeah. We're not touching ground, but we have to focus on so many things for now in order for us to realize our business growth, and then of course for TransNamib to become sustainable financially and become less dependent on the government going forward.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to doing this again, perhaps next time in person.